Okay, let's talk about one of the biggest and honestly most confusing financial decisions we make. Should you lease or buy your next car? You know the feeling, right? You walk into a dealership, the numbers start flying, and it's hard to know what they actually mean for you, especially in the long run. So let's cut through the noise and run the real math together. To do that, let's meet two guys, Jake and Marcus. They've got the same salary, same great taste in cars. They both want the exact same $30,000 ride. But at the dealership, they go down two totally different paths. Jake decides to lease. He puts $2,000 down and drives off with a payment of just $299 a month. Marcus, on the other hand, decides to buy. His payment? A whopping $522 a month. That's a $223 difference every single month. I mean, just looking at those monthly payments, it seems like a total no-brainer, right? Jake is probably cruising down the highway feeling like he just won the lottery. But who really, truly got the better deal here?
Well, here's the thing. The answer completely changes depending on when you ask that question. That super low monthly payment, it's seductive for a reason. You could almost call it a financial magic trick, one that cleverly hides the much, much bigger picture.
All right, so let's start where most people stop looking, the first 3 years. For the person leasing, this is the honeymoon phase, and man, it feels like an absolute undeniable win.
So for those first 3 years, Jake is just living the dream. He's got the new car smell, he's got a full warranty so there are no surprise repair bills, and his bank account is looking pretty healthy. Meanwhile, Marcus? Oof, he is feeling the pain. He's shelling out over $500 a month, basically just to watch the value of his car fall off a cliff. Psychologically, it feels like he's just setting money on fire.
In fact, Marcus finds himself in a really common and pretty stressful situation called being underwater. You've probably heard the term. It just means you owe more money on your car loan than the car itself is actually worth on the open market.
And this chart shows you Marcus's problem perfectly. At the 2-year mark, you can see his loan balance is still sitting around $22,000, but the car's value has already dropped to about $20,000. If he had to sell it for some reason, he would literally have to write a check for $2,000 just to get rid of his own car. It's crazy, right?
Now let's get down to the hard numbers. After 3 years, Jake has spent a little under $13,000. And Marcus? He's out almost $22,000. Jake is ahead by more than $9,000. I mean, on paper, this looks like a complete knockout victory for leasing. But, and this is a huge but, this is exactly where the story takes a massive turn.
You see, year 3 isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of the real story. This is the exact moment where Jake and Marcus's financial futures don't just bend away from each other, they completely break apart.
There's this quote from our source material that I just love because it nails this whole thing perfectly. One path is a conveyor belt that you never get off of. The other, well, the other has an actual finish line you're running towards.
So think about it. At the 3-year mark, Jake's lease is up. And, like about 80% of people who lease, he just rolls right into a new one. He's back at square one, month 1 of a new payment cycle. But Marcus? He's finally over the hump. He's made 36 payments, he only has 24 left. Every single dollar he spends from here on out is building real, tangible equity.
Okay, so let's hit fast forward. Let's stop looking at the tiny monthly picture and zoom all the way out to see what happens over an entire decade. Because this, my friends, is where the tables turn and the real winner is revealed.
Okay, now check out what happens by year 6. This is where the math does a complete 180. Jake has now spent over $25,000, and the asset he owns? Well, it's worth 0, so his net cost is everything he's spent. But Marcus has spent more, yeah, over $34,000, but, and this is the key, he now owns an actual asset, a car worth about $12,000. You subtract that asset from what he's spent, and his real net cost is now lower than Jake's. The buyer is officially in the lead.
And this timeline just lays it all out so clearly, doesn't it? You see Jake just hopping from one lease to the next, forever on that conveyor belt of payments. But look at Marcus's journey. The most important moment is at year 5. His loan is completely paid off. For the next 5 years, he has no car payment at all. That's 5 years of stacking cash.
And here we go, the final 10-year scorecard, the whole shebang. After a decade of leasing 3, maybe 4 different cars, Jake has spent somewhere between $45,000 and $52,000, and he owns absolutely nothing. Marcus spent about the same amount in total payments, but he ends the decade with a paid-off car worth thousands of dollars. His net cost is way, way lower.
So what's the big takeaway? It's this number. Let this sink in. Over just 1 decade, on just one car, the decision to buy and hold versus perpetually lease created a $15,000 to $25,000 difference in net worth. And you multiply that over a lifetime of driving, we're talking about a 6-figure difference. A 6-figure gap. Okay, now to be fair, it's not always that simple. Both sides have their own hidden costs and, the fine print that the dealership doesn't exactly put up in giant letters on the wall.
With leasing, man, it is all about the fees. Most leases have really strict mileage caps, and since the average American driver actually goes over them, that's a nasty surprise bill at the end. They'll also ding you for any excessive wear and tear, and trust me, their definition of excessive might be a little different than yours. And if you need to get out of the lease early for some reason, oh, good luck. It can cost you a fortune.
But buying isn't a walk in the park either, especially after a few years. Once that manufacturer's warranty runs out, you are on the hook for 100% of the repairs. 1 year, it might just be a couple of oil changes, but the next, it could be a $2,000 transmission repair that completely wrecks your budget. It's that unpredictability that's the real challenge for buyers.
So after hearing all of that, you might be thinking, so leasing is always a bad idea. Well, not necessarily. There are a few very specific situations where the math can actually flip and work in your favor.
First, if you own a business, you might be able to write off your lease payments as an expense. That can be a total game changer for the final numbers. Second, if you're someone who only drives high-end luxury cars where out-of-warranty repairs are just brutal, leasing keeps you permanently covered. And finally, if you are disciplined enough to actually take the hundreds of dollars you save each month and invest it, and you have to be really honest with yourself about that, you could come out ahead.
So after all of this back and forth, all these charts and numbers and timelines, what is the one single thing you should really walk away with? Well, it all comes down to reframing the question itself.
And it comes down to the single, powerful idea. The real trap isn't leasing, and it isn't buying. The real trap is making a massive $30,000 decision based on a small monthly payment. It's a psychological trick designed to make you feel comfortable with a decision that could end up costing you tens of thousands of dollars down the road.
So the next time you're sitting in that chair across from the salesperson and they slide that piece of paper across the desk with that tempting low monthly number, just stop and ask yourself one simple question. What does this actually cost me when it's all said and done? Because at the end of the day, that is the only number that really truly matters.